The heart of Cobra Kai is centered around how the main characters from the first movie, Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, have grown as people since their confrontation in the All-Valley Karate Tournament. The series' cold open is straight up their climactic encounter at the All-Valley Karate Tournament, setting the stage for our characters' journeys to continue from where we last saw them. While nostalgic, eagle-eyed fans of the original film may notice shots that were not present in the original cut of the movie. This was a deliberate choice on the part of the producers of Cobra Kai, as they wanted to delve more into the characters and present the story from multiple angles. One choice angle was a close-up of Johnny getting struck in the face by Daniel's legendary crane kick. Utilizing unused footage to frame the fight from Johnny's point of view was a deliberate choice that would pay off for multiple seasons to come. Johnny's reintroduction in the first season begins where his character's journey ended in the first movie. Face down and out cold, Cobra Kai presents Johnny passed out in bed in the exact same position he was in when Daniel's crane kick put him down for the count in the original film. This wordlessly demonstrates that his character is mentally in the same place that he's been for over 30 years by the time the show takes place. Being beaten down by Daniel was just the start of being beaten down by the trials and tribulations of life itself, and that shaped him into the man that he is today. The biggest indicator of how far he's fallen is the ripped packaging strewn across his bed. Seriously, why? I could understand if it was food or a beer bottle, but it being some random envelope has me concerned. Cobra Kai does not shy away from the iconography of the series one bit. We see Daniel don the headband that he wore in the original trilogy, and that he still has the '47 Ford convertible, both of which were gifts from Mr. Miyagi to commemorate his 18th birthday. Daniel keeping Miyagi's '47 Ford convertible in good shape is a fantastic character detail that perfectly jives with him becoming a used car salesman too. Ralph Macchio was actually allowed to keep the car and the headband as gifts once the movie became a hit, along with the trophy that he won at the All-Valley Karate Tournament. It's incredible how life can imitate art sometimes, and Ralph Macchio still had both the headband and the car all these years. Him bringing back both the headband and the car to be used on this series is a gift to the fans in that of itself, and him handing off the headband to Miguel in Season 4 is another step that truly brings things full circle. The rich history of the Karate Kid permeates every frame of this show. From the returning props to recurring character motifs, Cobra Kai has a deep appreciation for its legacy. We see how Daniel carries it with him, and one of the joys of the series is watching our characters recognize how each other carries that history as well. During Season 3, Daniel visits the Cobra Kai dojo in the strip mall, and he sees that the phrase "fear does not exist in this dojo" has been stenciled on the walls. This was the mantra of Johnny's sensei, John Kreese, who repeated that phrase to instill the ideology of cruelty into his students. With Kreese taking control of the Cobra Kai dojo from Johnny at the end of Season 2, this simple set detail sets the tone for how much of a danger he presents in this season to his students and the town as a whole. Johnny's journey has been a rough one. Peaking early as a high school bully will do that to you, and descending into alcoholism is a truly realistic trajectory for people like him. One of the most powerful scenes in this series depicts Johnny entering an alcoholic stupor, struggling to resist the bottle while watching the 1986 Iron Eagle, a movie in the vein of Top Gun that was a popular VHS rental at the time. Johnny had mentioned before that he's a big fan of Iron Eagle, and considering it's an action-packed father-son story, you can see how that would appeal to a kid who had a crappy stepdad and an equally crappy father figure in his sensei, John Kreese. Having the movie be interrupted by a commercial for Daniel's used car dealership is another emotional kick in the teeth on top of the one Daniel delivered at the karate tournament, and that further pushes him along his destructive path. But there's also a meta element to the presence of Iron Eagle. One of the characters in the movie, Packer, is played by actor Rob Garrison, who played Johnny's friend Tommy, famous for the classic "get him in a body bag" line. Season 4 marks the return of Thomas Ian Griffith as Terry Silver, the ludicrously over-the-top villain from Karate Kid 3. Terry Silver ran a business as a professional toxic waste dumper and spends the third movie getting revenge on Ralph and Mr. Miyagi, a kid and an old man that he's never met, because he was friends with John Kreese and wanted to get revenge for his defeat in a karate tournament. Despite how raw and emotionally charged this series can get, it's still built off of the backs of 3 80s movies. And thankfully, the show's self-aware of this. Terry admits that the events of the third movie sound insane if you try to describe them. He also admits to doing a ton of cocaine back then, which would definitely explain his deranged demeanor in that movie. This simultaneously makes that plotline much more believable as well, because hey, it was the 80s. Everybody did coke. Although the part about a billionaire CEO dumping harmful chemicals doesn't sound too far-fetched by today's standards. While this series celebrates a rich legacy, what's a legacy worth if you have no one to pass it on to? Miguel is a character that's been caught up in Johnny and Daniel's blood feud as a student of the Cobra Kai dojo, falling into the coda of no mercy, and falling further into a coma. After waking up, he eventually accepts the joint leadership of Daniel and Johnny in their new dojo, separated from the influence of John Kreese. This leads to a heart-to-heart, where Danny and Miguel have a talk about Miguel's future. Daniel admits that he never went to college, although his mom had saved up a Daniel fund in a jar. Unfortunately, that never went to tuition. Instead, it went towards a round-trip ticket to Okinawa, which is exactly what happened in The Karate Kid 2, where Daniel joins Mr. Miyagi on a trip to Japan to visit his dying father. This leaves fans wondering when Daniel will mention that he made the money back in an ice-breaking contest, only to spend it all on a bonsai shop. Yes, these goofy hijinks actually happened in Karate Kid 3. Like we said, 80s movies. Speaking of kids getting caught up in the Cobra Kai blood feud, Tory Nichols has a turbulent history in this show. Growing up poor informed her philosophy that the world is cruel, unjust, and has no mercy. She was perfect prey for Kreese's teachings, becoming the most corrupted pupil and earning the title of Queen Cobra. As the antagonist of Season 3, her outfit reflects that in a subtle way. During the final fight in Sam's house, Tori's sporting a skeleton-themed hoodie. Skeleton outfits are no stranger to this series, as Miguel had worn one at a Halloween dance in Season 1. But this actually goes a bit deeper, as Johnny and his friends wore skeleton costumes at a party in the original film. I guess you could say that Kreese's teachings corrupt people right down to the bone, huh?
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
Johnny enters Season 3 with the loss of the Cobra Kai dojo and the guilt of Miguel's coma hanging over him. Deciding to double down on being hungover, he attempts to cope with the situation by drinking away his problems in the first bar that he can find. While kicking back the booze, he sees a news report about how Robbie Keane, the one who put Miguel in his coma, is wanted by the police for assault. Before the news report can conclude, one of the two bargoers changes the channel to a football game despite Johnny's protests. They shrug off Miguel as a coma kid that nobody cared about. Johnny is not having any of that and follows them out to their car and intends to beat the life out of them. Despite punching through a car window with his bare hands and putting one of the jerkwads into a chokehold, he practiced karate, not drunk boxing, and is overpowered only to be saved by the arrival of the police. This scene is directly homaging the opening of Karate Kid 2, where John Kreese puts his fist through a car window while attacking Mr. Miyagi in anger, and highlights the similarities between Johnny and his mentor that he has to overcome. Season 3 is all about diving into Kreese's history, not just with how he relates to Johnny, but also his own personal life and how he ended up the way he did. We're shown in flashback a 1950s diner where a bully jock pulls up and harasses a server while on a date. The jock in question bears a striking resemblance to John Kreese, and that's because he's played by Jesse Cove, the son of Martin Cove, who plays John Kreese. But what's even more mind-blowing about this flashback is that the bully is not John, the server is. The jock and one of his buddies take John out back behind the diner to rough him up for smiling at his girl, as one does. Things look bleak at first as John's kicked to the dirt, but he manages to sweep the leg of one of his assailants while on the ground to make a quick getaway. We can see that he values this tactic immensely, as he told Johnny to do it at the All-Valley Martial Arts Tournament in The Karate Kid, and would even employ it against Johnny when he confronts him later that season. John Kreese's backstory is so good that you might have missed the secret origin for another beloved character, and that would be Mr. Miyagi's car. I'm not kidding. The jock pulls up to the diner in a car that the driver declares is a piece of junk that he intends to replace. And if you're not like me and can actually identify the make and model of a car on sight, you'll notice it's the classic 47 Ford convertible. While not a detail most fans were chomping at the bit to discover, it does add a cruel layer of irony to John putting his fist through the window of the Miyagi mobile at the beginning of the second film. Walking a path of cruelty led him back to the cruelty he barely managed to escape as a kid. I wonder if he recognized it after all this time. It's so satisfying to see Daniel train kids in karate, embodying the values Mr. Miyagi instilled into him while bringing his own experiences to the table. Daniel gets free labor out of his students in exchange for the fundamentals of karate. During one particularly hot summer's day, Daniel takes the kids into a meat locker to keep them cool while performing their exercises. If you pay close attention to the background scenery, you'll catch a glimpse of a label for the Fernandez Meat Company. This is a nod to the character Freddy Fernandez, one of the first people that Daniel met when moving to California. They met by pure coincidence when Daniel kicks open a door to his apartment complex where Freddy dubs him the Karate Kid. But why the meatpacking industry? The first time we see Freddy, he's wearing a shirt with two pigs and the words "making bacon." He's definitely bringing home the bacon now by bringing it straight to us. The penultimate episode of Season 2, Pulpo, sees Daniel and Johnny go on a reluctant double date. They reminisce about the past and poke fun at their rivalry, calling back to iconic moments from the first movie, like the time Daniel spilled blueberry pie on Johnny's shirt, to which Daniel responds,
On my shirt. That's because you put it on my chair first. See, he's leaving out the details.
Die-hard fans of the original movie are definitely on Daniel's side here. This is actually referencing a cutscene from the original film where the two were to have a war over blueberry pie. And while behind-the-scenes footage of the actors rehearsing the scene is available on YouTube, it was never finished. Romance is no stranger to this series. Everybody remembers the cute, innocent date between Daniel and Allie in the first movie where they went to golf and stuff. We learn in Season 2 of Cobra Kai that Johnny also took Allie on their first date, which led to a relationship that lasted for 2 years, until it blew up in Johnny's face when he missed Allie's birthday because he and his friends got blackout drunk. Golf and stuff still seems like the place to be, as Miguel ends up taking Daniel's daughter Samantha there for an evening of wholesome fun. I guess it's hard to say no to mini golf and air hockey. Despite Johnny having friends in high school, we don't see a lot of them. Most notable is his girlfriend and fellow member of Cobra Kai, Tommy, whose famous "get him in a body bag" is one of the most quoted lines of the original movie. We don't see Tommy in Season 1 of Cobra Kai or even the second and third Karate Kid films. The first time we've seen this character since 1980 is in a hospital bed, and he's been diagnosed with cancer. He's called up Johnny and a couple of other former Cobra Kai members to make their final memories together some worth remembering, and encourages Johnny that he can still change the course of his life. The last we see of Tommy is being zipped into a body bag, homaging the character's legacy in one of the most shockingly dark meta jokes seen on television. If it hasn't already been clear by several entries on this list, Cobra Kai has a pretty heavy focus on showing different angles to what was considered a pretty cut and dry story. The bully of the original story isn't just a one-note jerk, and the same can be said for the people who made him the way he is. The intent of the showrunners was born out of decades of fans making jokes about how Daniel was actually the villain of the first movie. There have been some extremely popular videos that reframe the movie as Johnny defending himself and his hometown from some new guy that's acting out. People even debate on whether or not the crane kick would have been a legal move in a tournament setting. While these theories were all in good fun, it's clearly left an impact on the fan base at large, and the people making this show are keenly aware of it. There's a scene at a parent-teacher conference where several parents are slamming the practice of karate. Daniel tries to defend the martial art that's shaped his life path, but immediately a voice from the crowd cuts in and says, "I heard you were the real bully." This comment is actually the voice of Cobra Kai co-creator Josh Heald. Whether or not he actually believes that, it's clear that the show does not want to paint either Daniel or Johnny as a clear-cut hero or villain, but rather both as flawed individuals blinded by their own assumptions. Cobra Kai feels like it shouldn't exist at times. In the age of nerd culture and 80s nostalgia being the norm, it's at times awe-inspiring to see this show transform these characters in such a mature way. These deep-cut details are so effortlessly integrated into this story that it's only natural that fans have gone back to rewatch the series again and again. What's your favorite detail in this series that you feel doesn't get enough attention? Let us know in the comments. See ya!